So just to go into the RFP timeline, we launched the procurement on November 6th, and we are currently in the pre-bid call itself right now. On the 20th, we're hoping to have all written questions due by January 13th. So if you have any questions pertaining to the event, please submit them by that date, and then we will be getting them back to you on January 27th, and we will be posting them up to our Piclo platform. And then all bids are going to be due for pricing and technical submission on February 4th. And we're hoping to have this awarded in June, as well as having the executed contracts by the end of August relatively. And then that will ultimately lead us to our anticipated start date of June in 2026. And I will pass it over to Asila to go over the new Krumkill NWA.
Thank you, David. All right, so jumping straight into the new Krumkill RFP, I'll be diving into a little bit more specific new Krumkill details here. So starting out first is on October 31st, 2024 of this year, National Grid filed the new Krumkill RFP. The RFP is also live on the Piclo platform right now, so folks can jump into the Piclo platform for more details. We do encourage NWA solution providers to register on the Piclo Flex. This way you can get notified of the upcoming RFPs and also get more details and updates on the RFP itself. And then more importantly, all proposals do have to be submitted through the Piclo Flex portal. So to be able to submit your submittal or proposal, you'll have to go through the portal. So if you're having any trouble or have any technical difficulties accessing or registering through the platform, please reach out to that email on screen, which is support@picloflex.com. So with that, diving into a little bit more details, folks may have noticed a slightly new approach and new details added to the new Krumkill RFP compared to the past NWA RFPs from National Grid. First one is National Grid has shared a new agreement, a new standard agreement that you can find on the Piclo platform as well as on the NWA website. And our goal with this is to help expedite the procurement process to give NWA solution providers a little bit more details on the contract terms and behind the scene requirements that we will be needing for the RFP. We also introduced two new bidding options and service definitions, which you'll see at the bottom of that slide. So going over them at a high level is we have NWA secure service and NWA sustained service. So when you're bidding in the NWA solution, it's going to fall either in the secure bucket or the sustained bucket, and developers can choose based on which requirements they can meet, which service that they'll have. For the NWA secure service, this is geared towards DERs that can respond to real-time dispatches from us. So it's all going to be dependent on real-time telemetry, so making sure that this NWA service has the ability to respond on real-time system conditions and requires a more advanced telemetry equipment between the DER and our grid management system. So for secure service, the NWA in real time will be dispatching based off of real-time conditions, so it's geared towards having the ability to do so. For the NWA sustained service, this one is geared towards a single or an aggregation of DERs. So that can deliver a flat level dispatch when called upon on a pre-agreed output or load reduction over a fixed time window and a minimum runtime defined for the DER. So this one will be on the day of a dispatch, it'll be a pre-agreed scheduled event. So based on the contract terms and the contract megawatts, it'll be a flat level dispatch that won't require any real-time dynamic change as opposed to the secure service. With this, in the RFP, the NWA sustained service does have language around the interval metering requirement. So with this, we do have a note here that National Grid is in the process of deploying AMI meters, Advanced Metering Infrastructure, AMI for short, in the Albany area. And Albany area residential AMI meter installation started around Q3 of this year, and we're hoping to have a substantial amount of meters installed around the second quarter of 2025. And then commercial meters will follow, and we hope to have those installed in the Albany area in 2026. Then looking a little bit more on the right-hand side of the slide, we'll dive a little bit deeper into the need itself that New Krumkill needs. You may have noticed that we've introduced a scaled forecasted need. So this allows solution providers to be a little bit more flexible with their solutions. So you'll note we're looking for a solution starting in 2026 up until 2030, and you'll notice year by year the megawatt peak increases. So if you're looking, for example, in 2026, the peak megawatt that we'd be looking to fulfill for a peak megawatt is 200 kilowatts. So this is the max megawatt we anticipate to request during a peak event. On the next column on that table is the max megawatt hour per day. This is going to be the max energy or megawatt hour we'd require for a single day or an event. With the scaled approach, we're hoping to give developers a little bit more flexibility when they're scaling up their solutions. And you'll notice in 2031, the need does drop down to 0 megawatts. So this is going to help for developers that are trying to scale up their solutions. Jumping into the next slide, we'll go over a little bit more into the RFP details. So more specifically, the 4.1 distribution system need requirements section in the RFP. So I'll be going line by line down the rows, just giving a little bit more context to what each requirement is. Starting for the first one, which is the commercial operation term. This is the term that we're looking for the NWA need to meet. So anytime starting in June 26 up until September 2030. The company is looking for at least a 1-year solution. So any developer or NWA solution provider needs to meet at least 1 year in that contract term. So from June 2026 to September 2030. And if a developer is looking to meet the full need or the full term, that's going to be from 2026 to 2030. However, we do want to note here that we are looking, we may consider a contract beyond 5 years. So if a solution provider, an NWA bidder, can propose something beyond 2030. If they're able to optimize their solution benefits and or improve the contract economics for the company, we may consider that as well. Jumping into the third line item here is the days of the week needed. We do expect the NWA to be needed during the weekdays and weekends, so you may get a call from Monday up until Sunday. The duration per call, which is up to 4 continuous hours. This is the longest continuous need for an NWA solution we would see during a day. So at most, what we forecast to expect is up to 4 continuous hours. So it could be from, let's say, 1 p.m. all the way up until 5 p.m. back-to-back hours. The minimum megawatt need is 100 kilowatts. So a single bidder, including an aggregator, must submit at least 100 kilowatts of load relief to be qualified as a single bid on the NWA RFP proposal. For the call response time, whether you're an NWA sustained service or an NWA secure service, every NWA solution provider will be getting a 24 hours load notice ahead of a dispatch need. So basically what this means, prior to any dispatch event, the developer will always get an email notification or some sort of notification at least 24 hours ahead of the need. Service window. This is the forecasted time that we expect to need the NWA. So within June 2026 up until September 2030, we forecast that the need is going to come sometime between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. So it's the earliest and latest possible time that we foresee needing this NWA solution. The number of times called per year is up to 10. So in 2030, we're expecting to be calling the system up to 10 times a year. We do want to know as we scale from 2026 up until 2030, we do foresee a pattern of increasing calls. So you might see a less number in 2026 and more calls in 2030. For the maximum consecutive days called, so in a summer, we could see up to 3. So that would mean you might see a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday back-to-back calls during a summer peak. Lastly is the guaranteed performance. This is something we wanted to highlight here is the 95% availability. So whether you're bidding in as an NWA sustained service or bidding in as an NWA secure service, we do expect a 95% availability requirement. And what this is defined by, it's the amount of load reduction the NWA solution provides during a dispatch window as a percentage of the amount called upon by the company. So if we're, say, calling 5 megawatts, anything within that 95% is considered successful dispatch, and anything under may be called for liquidated damages or at penalties. So a couple things just to summarize here before moving on to the next slide is the NWA solution providers, we do require a 1-year minimum bid. but we're happy for multi-year contracts. Bidder may submit a solution starting and ending at any year within the RFP term and beyond that. The company is also willing to consider sizing beyond the max megawatt peak that we had in the previous slide. So folks can scale further than that, they can scale under that. The company is open to considering a portfolio of NWA solutions to fulfill the comprehensive annual need. So we'll be putting, smaller needs together if need be to meet the full maximum megawatt need that we need. And with that, we'll dive into the next slide here. That's going to dive a little bit more into the economics of the RFP. Apologize, I think it was muted there. But on this slide here for 4.3, this is the economic section. So in the RFP itself, we have presented a net present value of benefits, which we sometimes refer to as the approximate value. This approximate value is the value of implementing an NWA solution for the new Krumkill substation is about 1.98 million for the total need from 2026 to 2030. So what this approximate value gives is a potential NWA solution so that bidders can better determine if their given NWA solution is cost effective or cost competitive when compared to the traditional wire solution. So this dollar value covers the entire 2026 to 2030 term. So it's a full benefit for all those years. So that way bidders can better estimate whether their NWA solution is cost competitive, and using this net present value, folks can better understand the calculated deferral value of the traditional wires for the specified amount of time for the applicable benefits. Now, folks have mentioned or maybe have noticed that the megawatts increase year by year. So this also means that the benefits increase by year based on the megawatt need. So you can scale the dollar value based off of the megawatt value. And one last note that we want to make here on this slide is the company does not consider bid values from the NWA Sustain service and NWA Secure service the same, and may consider the capacity value, which is the bid value in megawatts, of the NWA Sustain service lower in comparison to the NWA Secure service. And this is due to the lack of the real-time dispatchability. If folks remember, the secure service is the service that gives us the ability to dispatch in real time. So we do have that dynamic option to dispatch. So with the sustain service, given that additional procurement of NWA sustain service may be needed when bidding in as a sustain. So there might be an over procurement need when it comes to the sustain service use. With that, we'll jump into the next slide here that's going to go a little bit deeper into the payment structures. So in the RFP, we have section 4.4, and it gives a little bit more details on the different types of payment structures that National Grid is open to. And this will be for either both the NWA Secure service and the NWA Sustain service. First one, so a couple of different options that we could see folks bidding in is a set yearly contract cost with an annual payment to bidder by the company that could vary year by year, but is not dependent on the number of dispatches. So in short, this one is a set contract cost that we would agree on the contract for every year that the bid is being proposed, and that number would not fluctuate based on the number of dispatches. So whether we dispatch 10 times a year or 2 times a year, the NWA solution provider would be getting the same payment. The next one is an annual availability payment paired with a dispatch payment based on the actual number of dispatches. So this would look like first the bidder or the NWA solution provider would get a payment for every single dispatch made that year, plus an added cherry on top of an annual payment just for being available. So for example, let's say sometime in January or sometime in December, you'll be receiving that one payment for being available, and then you'll be getting added payments for every dispatch that happens. Last example here is a dispatch payment based on the actual number of dispatches without an annual payment. So this third example here, the NWA solution provider would only be paid for every single dispatch made. Last note here that I wanted to mention, the couple examples we reviewed here, we are open to different payment structures as well. So if folks have a CSA, a construction service agreement, or other payment structures, we are open to that. So feel free to propose different ones that were not presented here. With that, that covers most of the RFP sections. I will pass it over to David to go over the bid event process.
Thank you, Sela. So yes, just to go over how the process works, typically at National Grid, you might do it through, if you've bid in on past events through Reba, but we are going to be utilizing Piclo Flex for this RFP. So all interested bidders are going to register in Piclo Flex and complete the company qualification questions and then upload your capacity that you want to bid in. As a reminder, all of the RFP related questions should be emailed to our non-wire alternative solutions email by January 13th. You're also more than welcome to contact Piclo Flex for any support regarding the Piclo Flex platform itself. And then in the event that you're unable to complete the bid process using the Piclo platform, we just encourage you to reach out to both emails just to kind of make sure that we can resolve that for you if there were any issues there. When we post back all of the answers to the questions, these will be anonymized and also posted intermittently to that Piclo website where we're going to have the new Krumkill NWA tab. And that's going to kind of have a running list of the Q&A, and it'll be updated intermittently depending on how many questions are coming in. So we will not be putting your name to any of the questions, so feel free to ask whatever you see. And we ask that you don't communicate the bid event with anyone outside of procurement itself. Now I'll pass it over to Alex to go over the Piclo aspect of this.
Thank you, David, and thanks Cecilia as well for presenting the RFP. I just wanted to give people a context about what's kind of our role here and what we are trying to make easier for any DER providers, project developers, aggregators, et cetera, that are trying to kind of bid in their capacity into this opportunity. Basically, what Piclo is, we're independent flex marketplace or DER marketplace. We work on behalf of utilities and market operators that are looking for capacity and flexibility services and grid services. We work on behalf of them to deploy our software product, which I'll show in just a minute. That product is used to display those different grid services opportunities to DER providers, aggregators, developers, the whole category of flex providers in general, or FSPs, flex service providers, which is the broader term of anyone that owns, operates, or has influence over assets and can provide capacity and flexibility. So we're really here to help administer this RFP and make sure this process is easy and scalable for you as various flex providers in this realm. So I'll talk about this in a minute, but any kind of feedback on the platform, any feedback on the RFP, or what you guys can provide, what you can't provide, any feedback around anything in this process is really valuable to ensure that we're making this a scalable and easy solution for you guys to engage with. David, if you don't mind going to the next slide. Thank you. I will show the platform in just a second, but if any folks want to follow along, you can visit usa.picloflex.com. You'll see the screen on the top left, which is the dashboard of National Grid's territory. I'm going to share my screen, and I will take you guys through the process of how to look through the opportunity and access all the details here. So if you go to usa.picloflex.com, you can click View Competitions right here. Right in this area, the darker blue, lighter blue areas here are National Grid's upstate New York territory. On the right are the two competitions, aka these are the two. This is the RFP that you can bid into. We have secure service as one option, sustained service as another option. If you click on either of these, it will take you to the specific area that the RFP is related to. So what this is showing is that if you have an asset, whether that's existing, planned, or operational, you upload information about that asset, and then you can bid it into the service as long as it fits within this darker area. We've separated the secure and sustained, given that they're slightly different types of services. This lighter area as well, it means that if you have an asset in this slightly larger boundary, I think this is about a quarter mile outside of the original boundary, then you're also viable for applying for this. If you click into one of those services, you'll see information about this RFP. Nothing that we have up here is not shown in the RFP. It's just shown in a slightly different, hopefully easier way. Overall, bids are closed February 4th, 5 p.m. You'll see information about what power type, what's the need type, if it's putting energy back on or taking it off the grid, what's the connection value or interconnection voltage that you're looking at, et cetera. And as the CLA went through, they're looking for a max budget of almost $2 million for the entire 5-year service term. Now, you can bid into any of the 5 years. All of the time periods are in the summer from June 1st to end of September. Again, these are all details in the RFP, but they're laid out in a simpler fashion here, hopefully straightforward and easy to consume. Looking for flexibility 1 to 7 p.m., weekends and weekdays, up to 10 events that occur over that time, about up to 4 hours per event. For each year, as Asila showed, there are different numbers of megawatts that National Grid is looking for. So in 2026, they're starting at 0.2 megawatts, 27 is 0.7, 28, 1.1, et cetera, et cetera. And they're looking for assets that run for a minimum of 2 hours. So all that should be relatively straightforward. How you then interact with it after seeing this information is if you haven't login credentials already, you can click login and enter them. If you don't have them yet, you can click register and fill out basic information about your company, user details, organization details, etc. You submit that and we will get you confirmed and registered in the system. I will show you what would happen if you were already registered and had an account. I'm just jumping over to this other tab here. Let's say I have an account. I'm going to log in. So these are the two services for New Krumkill and the area related to it. How you would fill out information for the RFP is that you can click over it. You can either click apply right here, and this is where you'd go in to fill all the qualification questions, or you'll see in the RFP, there's an appendix that has 20 or so questions related to your company. You would click apply here, or if you go into the manage tab and then applications, and then scroll down to what will say National Grid New Krumkill, or National Grid Non-Wires Alternatives 2024. So you click that one, view application, the top right, and then you will fill in all of these questions right here. So up to 500 characters about organization introduction. You'll input your website, registered legal name, address, zip code, organization type. For instance, is it an LLC or an Inc. or a limited? EIN, country of origin, United States. Tier 1 supplier, such as a diverse supplier, and if so, the details around that. Legal relationship to the assets, such as if you are going to be putting this into a holding company and developing a new project, or if you don't own the projects, such as if it's a CNI demand response, you have an agreement in place with that load operator, et cetera. As well, you fill in information about the asset management and ownership structure. You don't have to fill all this information out all at one time and finish it, but let's say you have filled it out, you can click save and continue, and you can go on to the next ones. Organization status questions will be in this section. You'll then have questions about accounts and financial assessments, insurance requirements, any legal litigation. And then the final area is around contact information, additional documents such as references and resumes, question around sustain or secure service, and then acknowledging a few of the standard agreements, payment methods, and acknowledgements of code of conduct, etc. Anything that you need to review and download, you can click on these links and it'll take you right to that. If you need to upload anything like a sustainability plan, you can select the file and upload it there. Or if you need to upload NDA and data security agreement, also you can select the file and upload it once you execute it. At the end, you want to make sure that this is submitted by that February 4th, 5 p.m. Eastern date, and then go ahead and click submit. That is the one of two major steps that you need to opt in and submit a proposal here. The other thing is to submit information about your asset. So like I said, it could be an existing asset or operational asset. It can also be a proposed asset. So if you were to develop a new solar storage project or create a new aggregation in this area, you could put information about that aggregation or that project. To do that, you would download the latest template, and we use a standard asset file, which I'll just quickly show everyone. Awesome. So you have this template. If it is an operational or in development asset, you would fill out this tab. If it is a planned asset or a proposed asset, like if you were developing a new one and it would be contingent on this RFP being won, then you'd fill out this one. A few pointers here. Each row can equal one asset. Anything that says it's required in row 5 is required. And any directions related to filling out this template are mentioned here in row 3. I won't go step by step in this process, but I'd be more than happy to walk anyone through this. Hopefully it is a pretty straightforward process. Again, we're always open to hearing feedback from other folks, and reach out to the emails that we're going to provide in just a second if you run into any roadblocks. Thank you, David. Couple things, tips to remember here. Don't leave things until the last minute. February 4th is the deadline, 5 p.m. I know with the Thanksgiving and holidays coming up, it's very easy to get caught up in the rush of holiday planning. So certainly stay up to date. Make sure that you're keeping this on top of mind so that you can participate. Don't hesitate to reach out to us to ask for help on the platform side. If there's questions about the RFP and technical details around that, reach out to National Grid and the Non-Wires email. As I mentioned, give us feedback. We want to make this platform easy, and if you have any feedback on the RFP, of course, submit that as well. We are going to be sending out the recording and the presentation after this, so suggest rewatching it and reviewing it. We have help articles on our on the Piclo support page, which you can access for anything around the platform itself. And we also host a profile page for National Grid on our website, which contains all of the information that's needed for this RFP, including questions that everyone's going to be submitting. So what I would suggest you all do right after this is register for the platform. So visit the usa.picloflex.com and register if you don't have an account. Set up a one-on-one with us if you have any questions about the platform. Feel free to reach out to that email, flex-usa@piclo.energy, and then complete those company qualification questions and the asset file. And then you will be good to go on this process. And then you'll get the option to submit the pricing as well. And don't forget, of course, bidding closes February 4th, 5 p.m. So that was a lot of me talking. I think the last section over here is Q&A, so I will hand it back over to David.
Yes, thank you, Alex. I saw some questions in the chat, so I figured to start off the Q&A, I'll just answer those. One was, will National Grid consider proposed NWA solutions with later than June 2026? And yes, you can submit into later years. That is perfectly okay. Then the other one, which I believe we answered in the presentation itself, was does National Grid have a preference for which type of service you prefer? Is NWA opportunity, secure, sustain, and then will each be evaluated equally? And then I think Asila kind of touched on this, saying that the sustain versus secure service are not evaluated 100% equally just because the capacity value of the sustained service is lower in comparison to that of the secure service due to the lack of real-time dispatchability, and we need to additionally procure the NWA sustain service to adequately address the system need. So feel free to pop your questions in the chat. You can also feel free to come off mute. But I see some questions coming in that I can start kind of reading out, and then we can start going from there. The first question is going to be, how will the secure dispatch signal be delivered, and how will the response be verified?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here, David. And this is covered a little bit in our flexibility services standard agreement, which I fully recognize is 100+ pages. So understand if some folks haven't read the whole way through. If you look at the service terms, Appendix B, we have Section 5 and the telemetry requirements. Happy to just read verbatim what it says here, but essentially we're going to use the SCADA system and then the communication circuits from the facility to buyer for purpose of telemetering will be something we're going to use as well. So SCADA is the answer there, and then we'll make sure to use that for verification as well. But this is page 44 of the standard agreement if you want to review it on your own time.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. On to the next question. So will the awarded project be expected to follow the SIR process? Is that cycle loaded into the project timeline? And will the proposal be expected to fund an acronym CESIR and interconnection/upgrade fees?
Jump into this one, and I'll pause see if National Grid wants to add a little bit more details after my answer. But if an NWA solution provider does need to submit an interconnection request that might require a CESIR depending on National Grid standards, then yes, a front of the meter installation most likely will need to do so. In terms of who will be funding the CESIR, if this is an installation that does require interconnection costs based off of that CESIR, National Grid will be covering that interconnection cost.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then another question is there a pre-selected communications protocol for the real-time dispatch?
I don't believe we've gone with IEEE 2030.5, but I don't know if Brian or Kyle want to jump in on this. I don't think we've had any pre-selections though, from my at least understanding.
Yeah, generally, and this is Brian Young from National Grid. Generally, we use DMP3, which is a SCADA protocol. We are exploring other communication protocol types right now, but right now, the primary one that we will use for real-time telemetry is DMP3.
Okay, awesome. That was the last question in the chat. Does anyone have any other questions? You can feel free to come off mute, or you can also feel free to type your question in the chat.
I have one in the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Hi, I came in a little bit late and I've read through the RFP, but my understanding is a little bit foggy on like what is really permitted. So my understanding is that National Grid is looking to buy a portion of electricity produced by a renewable energy project. Would this include solar developments or community solar subscriptions?
I think it'll depend if the component or the NWA is able to meet the requirements we have in the RFP. I think we would accept it. It's just making sure that the solar component, if it is, can meet the dispatch requirements, whether it's a flat level dispatch or a real time for the secure portion. It's just making sure that it's able to meet those dispatch and MNV requirements.
And what would be the maximum amount of dispatch that would be required at a time?
So it depends on which. So if we're asking for the number of calls, I think in the RFP we forecast up to 10 a year. But in terms of the megawatts, I believe if we look back, for example, for 2026, we had a 200 kilowatt peak, and it scales up to 2.2 megawatts for 2030, and that would be the peak megawatt for a particular event.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I just went back to the load forecast. It's going to be in the bottom right corner for you, and it changes by year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then also just wanted to address a question that was done a little earlier in the bid, that is there an energy storage component to the RFP? And yes, you can provide storage as a solution to National Grid. And then, so yes, that is a possibility.
And maybe one more thing to point out, I think we've moved away from prior NWAs where we look to find an asset to meet the entire need. And our new process is looking to have, a portfolio approach where you do not need a bid in the entire need to meet this. And we're going to sit here and basically build a portfolio out internally that we think meets the need. So really want to stress that you do not need the entire need to be met with your bid for you to bid into this.
That's a great point. Thank you, Josh. I just saw another question come in. So is NWA sustained service bound by the 95% performance requirement described in the Flexibility Services Standard Agreement, Appendix H? If not, is there any performance shortfall penalty for the sustained service?
So my understanding is it would be, but again, Nasila, I don't know if we have any carve-outs here in this specific RFP.
Yep, that's correct. Both sustain and secure both require a 95% availability requirement for the performance.
Okay, awesome. Are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask? Feel free. Are the LDs defined in the bid docs? Yes, they are. I can.
One more quick
Sorry.
question, sorry, once you're done with that.
Oh, go for it.
Thank you. Would National Grid consider a lease term of 25 to 35 years? Say if we were to build a project that was contingent on this RFP, and if so, would they also participate in decommissioning the project, or is it solely just for the energy production?
I do not think we would be willing to do that, but again, happy to hear from others. That's certainly, I think, past the timeline we have for this specific NWA.
Agreed with Josh. I think 25 years might be a little bit expansion. And on the commissioning or decommissioning side, we do see that as if it's third party owned to be on the role of developer. But again, it will be depending on the contract structure.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Sorry, I'm new here, but thank you for your patience.
No, you're totally fine, and we're here to help. So please feel free to reach out with anything else.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other question that anyone wants to come off mute or drop in the chat? The RFP docs are in the Piclo site. Yes, they are all. You can find all of the RFP docs within that that Piclo demo. I think they had shown earlier. So all of those documents will be there. Is there any other question?
And David, I think just want to clarify the 95% performance requirements. For that, that's based on what the committed megawatts are that's bid in. So if there are more resources right behind that, as long as you are providing what you're committed to, that will adjust what the performance requirements are. So a project could have a lot more megawatts than what is being asked for to help meet that performance need.
Okay, awesome. So I know we are coming up at 12, but we did start a little bit late. So I'll kind of put out for if there's any other last questions anyone wants to ask to the team. I am hearing crickets, so I think that means that there are no more. So with that, thank you everyone for joining today. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come learn about this event.